Now it's my pleasure to reintroduce Katenna Jones, who is going to talk about reducing your relinquishments, tips for interventions, returns, and adoption retention.
Hello, how's everybody doing? Are your brains ready to explode? Yeah, completely fatigued, as am I. Some of this information has already been covered really, really well by other speakers, so there's some points that I'm probably just going to skip over really quickly because I get it. Your brains are saturated. So it may end a little bit early, which allows more time for questions, or I may elaborate. I'm not sure. We'll see. So we've heard everything, every possible excuse for why an owner brings a pet in. I'm moving. My dog suddenly doesn't like children after 3 years. I'm allergic to the dog that I've had for 7 years. There's all of these excuses, and it gets really frustrating. It's sort of like watching the news, especially watching the news in the US right now. Everything is bad. Everything is bad. So it makes you assume everything is bad, when actually the good stuff doesn't get attention. So we tend to get really negative because our lives are pretty negative in the shelter world. So I want to talk about what actually may be going on. So we're moving tomorrow. It's never, I'm moving in 3 months. It's, I'm moving tomorrow. So what could possibly be going on? You know? Well, if I moved, I would take my cat with me. I would only move to a place where I could take my cat. It's absolutely ridiculous. I would live in my car before I would give up my cat. How many of you have said that? Because I've said that. Absolutely. So based on an actual client, sometimes they can't. Sometimes there's a really specific, real reason why they can't. Emergencies happen. And I'm moving tomorrow, literally, because something happened 2 days ago. And a parent died. A sibling died. Something happened that destroyed my world, and I can't keep the cat, and I didn't have time to do something about it. We don't know. It's very possible that these things can happen because this thing actually happened. Or this one. How many of you seen that? I have a baby coming. I can't keep it. My pediatrician said. Well, this is also a client. She had multiple miscarriages, and her dog was her baby. She had a stillbirth, and she was devastated. And I was working with her, and then she got pregnant again. And she was afraid of what could possibly happen because this dog was not safe with babies. So that's why we were working together, and I knew he can't stay. He can't be with a baby. And she didn't want to give him up and the chance that maybe this pregnancy wouldn't happen. And it did, which was wonderfully amazing for her, but her heart was broken because she had to give up her other child. And she didn't want to talk about it. I handled it for her. She couldn't talk about it with the shelter staff because she was so devastated. She didn't want to be embarrassed and break down in front of them. And this is what really happened. She went to a behaviorist before she came to me, a veterinary behaviorist. She didn't pay me $2,500, trust me. She went to a veterinary behaviorist, and they recommended that the dog not stay, hoping for a last-ditch effort. He couldn't go. He ended up being adopted by a great family because I helped facilitate it because the shelter, I knew where he was going, and I was able to give them all kinds of background information that they might not have gotten otherwise if they had been upset that this person was bringing a dog in for this absolutely ridiculous reason, which actually is a pretty legitimate one. So I touched on this a little bit before, but your bar is not their bar. And you may very well be willing to live in your car rather than give up your pet. Some other people aren't, and that's okay. We are not normal. We're not average. We are the gold standard for pet care. We know more than the average person. It often comes down to education. They don't know. or pets just don't hold the same position in their families that they do in ours. So we have to consider the average person is a different bar than ours. So don't hold them to your own personal standard. Hold them to the general public's standard. And make sure you know the full story. I have a friend that says, no matter how flat you make a pancake, there's always two sides. Apparently I like pancakes, because that's my second pancake analogy. And sometimes it's they want to keep their privacy. It perhaps might be a cultural thing where pets just don't live in the house. We have a certain population that comes from a very tropical climate, and their pets just live outside there. They have no concept that a short-haired pet can't live outside in a New England winter. A little tiny short-haired pet. And then they find out that, oh, well, that's not appropriate, but dogs don't live in houses, so I'm going to give up my pet. For generations, this is how they feel. We can't judge that culture. It's not ours. We may disagree, but that's their culture. So it comes down to education, which I'll be talking about later. So the moment I had my aha moment, I was working at the reception desk, which is not my job, was not my job at the time, but everybody went to lunch, and we were just short-staffed, so everybody left, and I was the only one in the building. And a woman came in, and I don't remember why. She couldn't keep her dogs. There were two of them, and it was an emergency. It was immediate. She had to do it now, and I was absolutely ridiculous, unprofessional. I yelled at her. I told her it was irresponsible. She should have planned sooner. Can't you come back in 10 minutes when there's staff here? I can't possibly take in your dog. I can't do the paperwork because I have to leave this desk. I can't leave the desk because I have to answer the phone. I can't do the intake and put him in the kennel. Can't you come back in 10 minutes? No, I cannot come back in 10 minutes. And we got angry, and we yelled at each other, and she left. And then the staff came home from lunch, and they saw two dogs running down the road. Because of my mistake, I risked the lives of two dogs, my staff who had to catch those two dogs that were terrified and lost and running around in the road, and I destroyed any potential relationship with that woman. Maybe her situation could have worked out and I could have brought the dogs back to her. I don't know what her situation was. It could have been something I could have helped with. And I just realized at that moment, I'm so wrong. This is so wrong. So I really want you to try to think of that and try to change your conversation a little bit. And I talked about this yesterday. They chose you, so just give them credit for that. They could have let their dogs out on the side of the road. They could have, I won't mention because this is being recorded. There's a person that I know who he is not happy with the behavior that his cat has. And I'm not quite sure if he was joking or not, but his solution was a burlap sack and a rock. I think he might have been serious. I'm not sure. So that is an alternative that someone could choose, and they didn't. So thank you for coming in my door. Thank you for not choosing the burlap sack over me. So really, why care? It makes sense, right? We agree maybe we should withhold judgment, but really, why does it matter in the big scope of things? Because I want them to see you as a resource. You're the public place. You're the place that people go to when they need help with their pets. And you're the place where if I need help, if I need to surrender my pet, this is where I go. And maybe in 3 years, I'm ready to adopt. And I remember you. I remember when you helped me and when I was stuck in that situation, and I'm going to come back to you. Or if they had not such a great interaction or experience, where are the other places they could go? Maybe they have a bad taste in their mouth about rescue altogether, and they go to a breeder or they go online. I don't know, because they're not coming to us anymore. We want to keep in mind some of the reasons, and this is based on research in Australia, why pets are surrendered. And, sometimes they say, no room or moving, and we think, well, that's not really the reason. there's something else going on. They're lying. So maybe, I don't know why, but perhaps, maybe these statistics aren't accurate. Or maybe they are accurate. Maybe the people aren't as devious as we think they are. Maybe they're not lying. I don't know. But let's just assume if these are the reasons that they're giving, that these are real legitimate reasons. So let's maybe, I don't know, address them? Because I see a common theme here. Do you guys see a common theme among these issues? That maybe they need help? If we could provide resources, if we could provide them with information, perhaps we could intervene with some of these issues. So this has been covered extensively and really, really nicely. So I'm not going to elaborate on that. Providing these services in a way that's tangible. And the more we do it, the more information gets out there and it spreads. It's like Ringworm, right? The information is Ringworm. It just keeps going and going and going. And people bring it home and they don't even realize they have it until they find it later in a weird place. Right? You've all had Ringworm in a weird place. Pet care guidance. Maybe they can't bring it to you because it's sick. Perhaps it's a dietary problem and you could talk to them about nutritional changes. Oh, I didn't even think of that. I had no idea dogs could have a food allergy. And we think, oh my God, what are you, stupid? Stupid and uninformed look a lot alike. And by having resources available, whether it's a referral and send them to a nutritionist or a dermatologist, or maybe they can't afford those things, but here's a simple handout on something. Some way to address these common reasons, those are your reasons. So let's come up with resources to address those reasons first, and then start coming up with resources for those other reasons. I think this has been covered quite adequately today, right? I can't possibly add on that anymore. Completely agree with everything. So let's skip this part. I think we got it covered very well. What about accommodation networking? There was a big number that was accommodation, so housing reasons. This is a program that I started, and I don't even know if they still do it anymore, a shelter that I used to work at 100 years ago. And we started a pet-friendly housing network. And we would advertise apartments to people, to landlords that had pet-friendly apartments. I'm a landlord. I try to exclusively rent to pet owners, preferably staffy owners, because I like me a staffy. And how hard is it for them to find a home that allows their 2 staffies to be there? Those are long-term tenants. And they're going to stay, and they're going to pay the rent. And I like them. There are tenants out there, or landlords that are out there. So we kept a listing, and the landlords would contact us when they had an opening. Or we would contact condos that had affordable housing that was pet-friendly. And we would let them know this is the size limit that they have. Or they only allow cats. Or we had a network where we would post people looking for apartments, and landlords could come and find them. Or somebody who's looking for a roommate could go on there and find it. And we also provided CGC testing. I'm assuming CGC is here. Canine Good Citizen? No? Yes? So yes, it is. AKC has a program, it's Canine Good Citizen, where they receive an evaluation from a certified evaluator that this dog is well-mannered in public. And they get a little certificate, and sometimes that helps. Sometimes that will make a landlord say, oh, okay, he's been certified as a friendly dog. I don't know how much value there is actually in that piece of paper, but landlords like it. Behavioral resources. So this is what I want to talk about. If we can get those resources to them before the bond breaks, because once that bond cracks, it snaps open. It fractures very, very quickly. So if you're the place that's great to come to, when I come to adopt from you, when I come to relinquish to you, you're supportive, you're great. That information, again, that's Ringworm. It spreads. So maybe my neighbor's having a behavior problem, and I can say, well, hey, why don't you contact the Humane Society? They helped me when I had to give up my pet. Maybe they have a resource for you. Oh, that's quite possible. These are the most common reasons why pets are relinquished. A lot of these are fairly easy to resolve, except for the aggression one. That's not easy to resolve. And sometimes it's not resolvable or adequately resolvable. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a simple house training or litter box change. And I don't know how many cats I've just said, well, take the cover off the litter box. Oh, he doesn't have to go to the shelter now, because they just didn't know that sometimes covers make cats not like the litter box. And having resources for specifically these things can help a lot. And obviously you can't give a handout on dealing with stranger-directed aggression, but do you have someone that you can refer them to? Or a vet behaviorist in the area that you can refer them to? So referrals are a really important part. Perhaps you can offer behavior consults. This was something that I offered when I was at the shelter, and it actually paid for itself. We did private consults for the general public, and we had, if a pet was adopted from us, the consult was free. If it was adopted from another facility, the consult was 50% off. And if it was purchased from a breeder or some other source, then it was a full rate. But it was cheap, very cheap. And it ended up paying for itself because people kept telling people who kept telling people. And we were able to determine, because we had a sliding scale for spay-neuter rates based on income. It's a literal scale that based on their income, and they bring proof of government assistance, you can adjust the rate, and we did that for the adoption counseling too. So some people had a whole bunch of money, and they would come in and they would pay the full rate, and then they would also give us a donation because they were so appreciative. So you could perhaps get somebody who's good on staff in a paid position who can provide behavior consulting to the general public. I know it's one more thing to do, but it can happen. Hotlines. That is a potential option that some people do, and they have a dedicated line, or they rent a toll-free number that you can buy, a toll-free number that you just pay however much per month, and it's free for someone to call, and have an option where they can call and get help for their behavior problems. So instead of coming to you, calling your staff and tying up their time trying to answer these questions, you can have a behavior hotline and do a triage. So, well, I can't help you with that problem, but I know someone who can, and here's their phone number. Or, you know what, I'm not sure. Let me get some information on that and let me get back to you. Or, I have a link on that. There's a YouTube video. Just go to this website and you can learn how to address it. So sometimes having a phone number to call helps a lot. The ASPCA has a behavior hotline, which is quite impressive. You can have just a mini version. And it can be funded by volunteers. It can be manned by people who don't necessarily know behavior, but know where the resources are and are able to triage people and get them help. Pet training classes, this was another thing that we implemented. We just did group classes, and we did socialization classes for puppies. I didn't get to do this because it wasn't a thing at the time, but now kitten classes, kitten socialization classes, people love those. They're really fun. And you can charge, remember, Pimp Your Cats? You can charge other people to come to the socialization class and help socialize kittens with strangers. Oh, and by the way, bring your kids. And if your husband is a really big guy with a deep voice, even better. Bring the whole family. And you pay to help me with this kitten that is owned by somebody who paid me to socialize it. You can do it affordably. Again, if they were adopted from us, it was free. If they were adopted elsewhere, it was half. And if they weren't adopted, it was full rate. And I didn't want to undercut the competition because it's inappropriate to do that. So I had about the same rate as the low end of manners or obedience training in the community because I didn't think it was appropriate to undercut my colleagues, and they don't like it. As someone who does this professionally, I don't like it. Information workshops, we started doing these as well, and we would just have workshops, Saturday afternoons, Wednesday nights. We're gonna talk about litter boxes, or we're gonna talk about cat nutrition, or puppy socialization, or fearful dogs, or sometimes it was just calling all cat lovers, Cats 101, and we would talk about trimming nails and proper nutrition and having adequate access to water, because we know cats don't get enough water, and then they have kidney problems and renal problems. And it was just a free informational workshop. And people would come and hang out, and it was BYO dinner, and we just asked that it not be a stinky dinner because it might upset someone who's there. And we started doing preparing your pets for babies workshops, and then it started becoming more and more specific. And this is actually what we started out with that turned into the behavior consulting. And you could charge a nominal fee, like $5, or it could be free, or it could be more. I would recommend having it be affordable, because the more people come to you and see you as a resource, it becomes Ringworm. Handouts, videos. So if you're going to have people coming to you for resources and information, then you have to have those resources available. There's lots of handouts that already exist. Don't reinvent the wheel. Steal some of this stuff. Let's not resource guard. Let's share with each other. And there's a lot of videos out there. There's YouTube videos, all kinds of things. Desensitizing dogs to muzzles. Michael Shikashio has a great video on desensitizing dogs to muzzles. And I didn't bother making a video. I just give his video to my clients. Saved me a whole bunch of time. And I go on my behavior groups and I post a little chat. Hey, does anybody have a good video on clicker trainer timing? Oh, yeah. I didn't do it, but so-and-so did a great video. And then the whole organization starts sharing these videos with people. So create these things or use the ones that are already out there and have those resources available. So increasing adoptions. This has been discussed quite a bit, and I completely agree, obviously, with all of it. So I want you to look at this, and based on your current adoption policies and your current application, I want you to think, would I adopt to this person or not? Or maybe I need more information. I don't need a response. I just want you to read through it and see what you think. So, did you approve them? That's me. Did you just deny me? Did you deny me? Sometimes there's other sides to the story. My dog actually isn't dog aggressive. She was labeled dog aggressive by the place where I got her, but she's not really dog aggressive. And yeah, I have a really big yard, and there's a busy road. I live on like this weird island, and there's a slow road and a busy road. She has a huge tie out, and she's on a long leash with me constantly, and she doesn't run. She's really lazy. I called my husband and said, did you take her for a walk? And he's like, well, I tried a forced march, but she wouldn't cooperate. She pooped and kept pulling to come home. It's like, you got to make her walk. She doesn't. I hired a dog walker. I don't know if I told you guys this, and they fired me because she wouldn't walk. So who cares if I don't have a fenced-in yard? Some people can actually use leashes and tie-outs and runners. So there's different reasons why, and I do work really long hours, but a lot of them are from home, and a lot of them my dog comes with me. So on paper, it doesn't look great, but in reality, there's a whole other side. So this is my dog aggressive dog with our first foster. This is from one of the Missouri 500 puppies. This is Hope, who had a severe case of mange. This is Jackson/Zeppelin, my first foster puppy. That's Lucy, another case of mange. That's Sandwich, who was aggressive toward volunteers. He came from Sandwich, Massachusetts. It's a weird name. And that's two little puppies that I had for a couple of nights, Meatball and Basil. And that's my third mangy puppy, Pinky. So this dog-aggressive dog helped me raise all of these foster puppies. So she wasn't actually dog-aggressive. She was actually really good with puppies. She's not good with puppies anymore because she's like 14. So we don't foster puppies anymore. She decided we were done. But she was really, really good with puppies. And that one from the Missouri 500, I don't know if you guys know that. It's the largest dog fighting case in the U.S., and it was 500 animals, 500 dogs, and it actually grew after some of those puppies were born. So it was 500 fighting dogs from multiple states were seized. And I took him because he was really dog aggressive, and we needed to see if he could live with a dog. Turns out he could not. He was genetically really dog aggressive. So don't have to take my word for it. I touched on this yesterday. This is what a poll of adopters think. They think it's too lengthy. They think it's too invasive. A lot of people get turned off by it. So again, why should we care? Because they might go to other places like breeders, Gumtree. We want to get them out faster to decrease that deterioration, improve retention, improve turnover. So all of these things have been covered already. And what do people think of your process? What do they think of you? What is their opinion of you? Again, Ringworm. Is it invasive, intensive application? I'm not suggesting that you remove all of these things from your application, but I am suggesting that you closely look at your considerations on your applications. A lot of people don't come in and say, I would like to adopt a dog. Oh yeah, I have dog allergies. I'm so glad that you asked me about that because I forgot. So do we need to have an allergy question on there? I am coming to adopt a dog from you because I would like to chain it out. And I would like to fight it. And I would like to breed it and abuse it, please. So why ask these questions? If they're going to do that, they're going to lie on the application anyway. And people aren't going to come to you to do that. So take these kind of questions out. Do you intend on tying your dog out all day? If that's something that happens here, then that's a question that you have to ask. If it's not, then don't. So we want to minimize that application, have it be as short as possible. It shouldn't take over an hour to fill out an application. Relevance, I started changing our application process, and we started placing dogs with dogs that were intact, because there were sometimes that they were intact for a reason, for health reasons, or they were show dogs, or there was something going on, some behavioral reason that they wanted to keep them intact while they grew, like we discussed a little bit about hip dysplasia and whatnot, and they planned on neutering them later. So I had a conversation. If the pet was intact, why? Do you intend on spaying or neutering them? Well, I haven't really thought about it. We just happen to have a low-cost desexing program here. Could we assist you with that? Oh, and thank you for adopting our dog. So maybe that's a question that can turn into a conversation. Finances, insurance. Does it really matter if they have pet insurance? Does it mean they love them any less? If you can get that pet out and then get another pet in and get another pet out, it helps so much more. So just look at some of these things that we have on our application and truly ask yourself, does this make a difference? Is this worth saying no to this pet that could leave right now? And maybe you'll take some of them off. Maybe you won't. That's okay. Totally your prerogative. But these are just some of the questions that I want you to really take a look at. And also the gotcha questions. I asked that you remove the gotcha questions. So how would you deal with house training? And when they say the wrong thing, you deny them. That's an opportunity to educate them. So if the pet isn't house trained, say the pet isn't house trained, here are some resources on how to properly house train a dog. So you're helping them instead of catching them. Ha! I knew it. You were going to rub their nose in it. You suck. Or you could say, well, I'm not sure if he's house trained, but if he is, you don't want to do stuff like rub your nose in it and whatnot. So here's a handout, or here's a video on how to properly house train. So you can place a dog and educate somebody who's going to get a dog, whether it's from you or somewhere else, and they might come back to you for help, and they might tell their neighbor. So let's get rid of the gotcha questions. No college students. Is this something that's common here? We have a ton of universities in Rhode Island, so there's a lot of places that say we don't adopt to college students. It's just a flat policy because college students are irresponsible and they're going to abandon the pet. And yeah, I was a college student. I was pretty irresponsible. And not all of them are. This is a college student. I put her through the ringer. I made her parents come for the for the interview, and they agreed if she couldn't keep the pet for any reason, they would take the pet. She ended up being one of our best adopters. She brought friends in to adopt from us. She had birthday parties where she gave donations to us. She started doing fundraising around her campus because I let her adopt a really difficult placement. This dog was difficult. This kid is torturing this cat, right? Oh my God, there's no way I'd let this cat go. This is my niece. This is her grown up 10 years later. That cat saved her life. Really difficult childhood. If you were ever a teenage girl, add that on top, right? It sucked to be a teenage girl. I'm imagining it sucked to be a teenage boy too, but I only know the perspective of a girl. And that cat really helped her out. And he passed recently, and she said whenever she cried, he would lick her tears. What if we hadn't placed that cat? Maybe she wouldn't have grown up to be the really caring, gentle, generous person that she is now. And she came to visit me for a week because I live about 5 hours away from my family. And she stayed with me for a week, and she asked if we could go to a shelter and play with some cats. She's 15. What 15-year-old girl wants to do that? I would. I mean, obviously all of us would. But there's some 15-year-olds who want to go shopping or, play on their phone all day. So this is my quick gallery of rejects. These are people who were denied by rescues. If you know Trish, she was rejected by a Doberman rescue. Seriously? She knows more about Dobermans than probably the entire planet combined. And Doberman Rescue denied her. And she commented on her Facebook page about being denied. And it was a private Facebook page post. And then it got back to the rescue. And they ripped her apart on social media. Well, guess what happened? All of the people that know Trish now are not going to have anybody working with that Doberman rescue. So that rescue just lost a lot of people because they didn't know who they rejected. And Trish did not have that intention. She wasn't intending to slam them. She wasn't intending to cause a problem. It was just a private comment on, oh my God, can you believe this happened? And then it kind of went crazy. If you don't know her, follow her. Lore Animal Behavior. She's a consultant. She came here 2 years ago, last year. Amazing. She's the one that does the online, some of the online classes that you guys have. And thanks to her, I'm here because she recommended me that I come. So I love Trish. This is a friend of mine, Shalom. She hired me to help her assess a litter of puppies that she had been interested in adopting. And assess it as in which would be appropriate for her children's behavior. What would be a good match for them? She paid me. I came. We met the puppies. We looked through them. We chose a couple that we thought would be good. And then we came again. She paid me for another session. And we had her kids interact with the puppies. And then they made the final decision. Then we picked the final puppy. And then when she was ready to take the puppies home, the rescue said, oh, we're not letting them come home with you. You work too long. You work far too many hours. This puppy was going to come to work with her. She works at the biggest vet specialty clinic in Rhode Island. They've got dermatologists, they've got cardiologists, they've got oncologists, they've got everything. And she was going to go to work there, or the puppy was going to go to work there. But she didn't have a fenced-in yard, and she worked too long. This puppy would never want for any medical care at all. There's nothing that's treatable that this puppy would ever suffer from. And then people found out about it. I will not work with that rescue. I used to volunteer for them. I used to do workshops for them. I won't let clients go there. I won't work with them. They contact me for donations. I used to donate books to them. Nope. I don't even return their calls. And I've told my colleagues about it, and they're telling their colleagues about it. So they just got a case of ringworm. Okay, so think about your fees. I'm not saying adopt everybody for free. I get that. We have to have fees. Certain situations, obviously, different pets cost more money. But I just want you to keep in mind, these are all the free pets in the Brisbane area that I found on Gumtree. They're all free. So just keep that in mind, that if they don't come to you, they're going to go somewhere else. So if they can't afford it, maybe consider working with them or having your special needs pets. It was touched on yesterday as well, reducing fees or, a senior for senior day. Approval before meeting. I don't know if this is something you guys do. This is something that's popping up in the US. You have to go through an application process and an interview and be approved before you can even touch the pet. If that's common here, don't do that, please. Because why would I? I want to meet them. And how can I interview you if I haven't seen the pet interact with you, and maybe it's not the right match, but this guy is? And then maybe I could match you up with that guy, and then that application process might be a little bit different. So let's let them meet and see if we can create some relationships and not deter them before filling out the application, because that's something I used to do, and I think I was wrong. Scheduled appointments, the 20-page booklet, I talked about that. That's something you want to try to cut down. So scheduled appointments, sometimes rescues will have an appointment. You can come back in 5 days, and I will take you through the kennels so you can see what dogs we have. They're not coming back in 5 days. Okay, I'm going to spin through this. If we're rejecting them for time, they're being home alone too long, how much time are they spending alone in your kennel? Will it be less in that home? Let them go. If they're not going to feed them enough food, if they're going to starve the dog, it's fine. No. If they're going to feed them crap food, is it better than staying in a shelter? Maybe you could educate them on nutrition and give them some samples and educate them on quality of diets. But not having the brand of food that you prefer, is that really a reason to keep a dog or a cat in a kennel longer? Money. Can you afford this dog long term if a veterinary emergency comes up? I think we saw in that video a homeless man who could not have loved his pet anymore. I would rather have you have all the love in the world than money. I placed a dog with a very wealthy woman who brought her back after a couple of months, and she was very outgoing when she left and not when she came back. She would cower and pee on herself, and it was really sad. I had to foster her for a couple of weeks to try to get her back. She came back because she clashed with the couch. And I've heard of these things, like people don't really do that. This woman did. The dog was beige. Beige doesn't clash with anything. I don't know, maybe she was colorblind, but she was really wealthy. And I ended up placing her with a guy that was on public assistance. He was a veteran. He was a little crazy, but he loved her. And he was really gentle with her. So money isn't everything. Pet insurance, I don't recommend having that be a requirement because I don't have pet insurance. My pets are too old and they had all pre-existing conditions because they're 100 now. Qualifications, are they qualified to own a pet? If they have a heartbeat, they're qualified. And then you can kind of dial in after that and see if they're safe. Your adoption counseling, try to have it be personal rather than pencil. Not fill out the application and hand it to you, and then you decide based on that paper, have a conversation with them. And remember, these aren't your pets. We talked about this yesterday. You are not the standard. You are the exception. You are the goal. This is what we want for pets. So let's help people get that way instead of punishing them for not being there already. This is a great manual for the Adopters Welcome. I mentioned this yesterday. It's a program through HSUS. I suggest you check it out. There's forums for you. There's manuals for you. There's all kinds of tips and tidbits that are quite useful. Decreasing returns. I don't really need to touch on this. We've touched on all of this stuff. If you want to deal with your post-adoption returns, same as your surrender interventions. So it's actually not more work. The resources that you use to prevent surrenders in the first place are resources that you can use to try to prevent returns. It's the same thing. It's not extra. Those are two ways that you can help. That's the same thing. Again, the common behavior problems that you want to address. And I just want you guys to remember, be a resource, don't be a judge. Have them come to you, thank them, and have them leave with a smile. That was always my goal. I want them to leave with a smile. And I want you to do a little something. It's so cheesy, and I'm not really a hokey, cheesy kind of girl. Well, maybe I am. I was wearing cat shoes yesterday. So this is a little something I read in an article, and I was like, this is so stupid, but all right, I'll try it. There's a situation with the driveway with my husband and I, and if he's watching this, you know the driveway situation. And it was really, it became a problem where it was affecting our marriage. And I was resenting him, and I was snapping at him and being really inappropriate. I felt hurt. I felt I don't know, just disrespected. And every time I looked at the driveway, I thought about that. And I thought about how angry he made me. And every day it festered. And I read this really cheesy article where it said if you just say the opposite in your head, just say the exact opposite, eventually it changes your mind. And I thought, oh my God. So every day I went outside, I said, I love that driveway. And I would go outside, I love that driveway. Every day, and no joke, I don't really care about the driveway anymore. And it wasn't, I don't want to do this because I realize it's ruining my marriage and I'm being completely unreasonable and I'm really willing to lose this wonderful, wonderful guy over a driveway. That's not what did it. It was, I love this driveway. So let's not talk about relinquishers and adopters in the bathrooms and in the hallways and in the break room. Just stop talking about it. Stop saying bad stuff about them and just change it. And they chose me. Why? They could have done something else. They could have done something else. And just keep saying it and start to become more positive about things. And it's so cheesy. I get it. I love people who come to my shelter. The general public is wonderful. The average pet owner is fantastic. And I got to tell you, we're getting along great. So thank you guys very much. I hope you enjoyed. And I'm skipping through this because this is something you did previously. Some resources and some thank yous. Thank you, Pet Safe, Dogwise. Contact info.
So we're going to have question time. If I could invite Bridget as well. And we've got our microphones here. A reminder that morning tea is in the pre-function area, but please come and check out our exhibitors here. And remember, the next session starts at 10:30 a.m. We want to make sure everyone gets out on time today. So if I can trust everyone to set your internal clocks and be back here at 10:30, that would be great. 10:29, even better. Just because I'm that kind of girl. The other thing that I need to tell you is there are still some spots in the workshops tomorrow in Miles and Alicia's workshops. So if you wanted to get a little bit more knowledge and you wanted to be part of that, just go to the registration desk to find out more. So we have a couple of questions.
This is for Bridget. Despite the conference theme, what are your thoughts on the original home not always being suited in the longer term, and that for some pets who come into your care, it's their opportunity for a new beginning and an even better life?
Good question. Maybe I have an answer. So I think it's going to greatly depend on the situation. Like Katenna was saying, we have so many animals coming in to our shelters that do we really have the luxury of judging each and every owner unless they are severely neglectful or abusive, which does actually happen. Unless the situation is really something that we can't live with, do we really have the luxury of keeping all these animals until they can be adopted by a new home? So I would say, in general, if their home is okay, they need to go back and stay there, unless there's some really verified neglect or abuse occurring. That's my opinion.
And another question.
Hi, this one's for Katenna. Our shelter, I feel, doesn't have a lot of barriers to adoption, but one that we do have is we tend not to adopt people who are on temporary visas, like student visas. We do recommend to those people fostering instead, because we worry that if their visa isn't approved, what will happen to the animal then? What do you feel about that? Do you think we're putting up an unnecessary barrier to adoption there?
That's interesting.
Hang on, it's on.
Is it? Oh, there. I just didn't have it angled. That's interesting. It's something I've never actually run into because who wants to come to the U.S. right now? Everybody go to Australia. It sucks. I mean, U.S., not Australia. Australia's great. I'm not sure because of the hurdles if they do fall in love and they want to take the pet home, the hurdles of getting into another country, or potentially they may stay. I'm not sure because it might be something worth considering, foster. And have them maybe do some long-term fosters. So have them be perhaps a repeated foster And maybe you'll find out this person is so dedicated that they're going to do it. Or it could be they renew their visa and they end up keeping the pet that they were fostering. But I would say case by case, but I think that, I agree, that is something worth considering because, you know, the more they come back, the more difficult it is to place. And I hate to say it, but depending on how long the visa is, I'm going to say it anyway, really, really senior cats, right? Or really cats with health problems, or dogs. I'm kind of cat girl. Pets that we don't think have significant longevity if they're capable of hospice adoptions. Some people are not capable of that, but maybe that type of case. Does that help at all?
Yeah.
So big fat maybe.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, so, yep, another question?
I just wondered what you thought of dog-on-dog requirements, meetings.
I think it depends case by case. My dog, I would never bring to a shelter to do an intro. And that was one of the reasons that Trish was rejected also, because she refused to do a dog-dog intro. If you're going to do it, I ask that you do it properly with multiple visits, not on your shelter site, and you do it slowly. A leash greeting where the resident dog gets out of the car and the shelter dog is brought out of the cage and they're brought right up nose to nose on property is completely inappropriate. It's not an accurate assessment of how they're going to do well together. It's setting up both dogs for failure. The greeting or the resident dog is going to be distracted and potentially defensive. And we don't know if the shelter dog, how long they've been there, and maybe that's their territory now. So if you're going to do it improperly, don't do it at all. If you're going to do it properly, then do it properly. And that's also going to educate them in the future for how they can do introductions when they want to meet the grandmother's dog or, you know, whatever. So it takes longer, but if you let them know why you're doing it this way, I would strongly recommend doing it. So either do it right or not at all. That's my opinion.
Freedom?
Katenna, as in your like private business side of things, if you're doing consulting with adopted animals, overall, what's your feeling in terms of are rescues and shelters placing animals in appropriate homes, and are they accurately assessing, or not assessing but judging the the personality of an animal before they place it?
I think I have a non-accurate sampling because the people that come to me tend to be exceptional pet owners. They're willing to pay for assistance. So yeah, those homes, and primarily I would say 75 to 80% are rescue pets. And they're fantastic families, so really good choices. But it's a skewed sampling, right? Because crappy owners aren't going to come to me. But I'm finding that I'm recommending rescue less and less and less because there are some jacked up pets that are being placed. And I have to work with these people, and it costs thousands of dollars and years of training. And they can't do it. And then they're put in the position, well, if I come back, the shelter's going to judge me, and then they're not going to place the pet with me again. Or I've fallen in love, and now I have to make the choice about whether to keep them or euthanize them. So I just ask that you strongly examine the pets that you're placing and get them out faster so they don't deteriorate. I have a client, we've been working for over a year together. She's paid me over $4,000. And this dog shouldn't have ever been placed. He's dangerous, and she loves him, and she can't make the choice to not work with him. He's not adoptable. He's bitten too many people. Nobody's going to take him. And now she has the emotional responsibility, financial responsibility, and time responsibility to deal with it. And it was really unfair. And she said, if I had known this, I would have never taken him because my heart is being ripped out every day. So just please consider the ones that you're placing and the burden that you may be putting on the new family, which is a difficult decision for you guys to make, but the general public shouldn't have to make that decision.